Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Chakaraki, and on Street Talk, what we deal with the political, social, and economics from Michigan, U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight is
Dennis Burnside
and
Charles Thomas.
Tonight we're gonna ease back through history, and this show been going on for 20 some years, but we haven't dedicated a show to our great ladies, and we've had some great ones. So let's get on the way.
Well, I think my favorite black freedom fighter would be Fannie Lou Hamer. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you can have a conversation about black women in the civil rights movement, freedom fighting movement, without first talking about Ida B. Wells, mm-hmm. who was one of the founders of the NAACP
Yep.
in 1909,
Yep.
And wrote probably the seminal book on lynching. That came out, where they cataloged and detailed lynching, mm-hmm. and looked at the laws of each state, mm-hmm. and how they addressed that issue, and whether or not it was quasi-legal in some of these states, mm-hmm. which we know it was.
Right.
Where they would advertise in papers and put out postcards, mm-hmm. and invite people to town for the lynching on this particular mm-hmm. day. Ida B. Wells is a heroine of mine, just for the work she did there.
Yeah, and you know the thing about it, of course I won't mention it too much, but she was born in Mississippi.
Oh yeah, she was.
Yeah, she was born about 60 miles from Memphis. And I was reading, and they said that I think she was 6 years old when they had one of the most lynching. I don't want to put it like that, but one of the most outrageous, lynching party, they said, in Memphis, and in Memphis at the end of 18, it was 18 either.
It's around 1878, 1879.
Yeah.
And it shaped her life.
Yeah.
And probably burned into her mind, mm-hmm. the injustice and the horror of what
mm-hmm.
she saw.
Yeah. And the thing about it, when you think about some of these ladies, they all lived a long life.
Well, except for Fannie Lou Hamer.
Yeah. Well,
she died. Young, but you're right. A lot of them lived very long lives.
Yeah, right? And you would think the kind of stress they was going through then, they couldn't last, but they last, and that was a great thing about it.
Yeah, and they were strong women,
mm-hmm.
And they raised a lot of children.
Yeah.
And they were dedicated to the cause.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The other one, there's more, but...
well, Fannie Lou Hamer is my absolute favorite. I mean, she was born the 20th child in a family of sharecroppers, grew up dirt poor, physically strong and very intelligent, even though her education was minimal. They said when she was 13 years old, she used to pick 250 to 300 pounds of cotton a day. 13-year-old
She
girl.
held her own. Huh?
Yeah, man, she
She
could
ain't
put
with
in
the
that
best
work.
of 'em.
Yeah, that was
She
the
could definitely put in that work.
That was you go.
Yeah.
On your horn, boy.
But you know, she was one of these people who came up and was not afraid to speak her mind.
Right.
She didn't buck dance. She didn't lower her head.
Right.
She didn't roll her eyes.
Yep.
She didn't defer. She really spoke out, spoke her mind, and showed a lot of courage. I mean, she was almost beat to death in 1963.
Yeah.
Beat to within an inch of her life.
Yeah.
Came out of that and went right back to work. And just I didn't know this till you just told me before the show that it was one of her drawings that the Black Panthers took the Black Panther
Yeah.
logo from.
Yep.
Fierce woman,
Yeah.
fierce freedom fighter, and I think that I don't know if I would consider her underappreciated, but I think we ought to know a hell of a lot more about Fannie Lou Hamer in our teaching to our children.
How about
And another Mississippi woman.
yeah? Oh yeah. How about Mary McLeod Bethune?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to visit her site in D.C.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, her home and what she's done, and
Yeah.
they got a statue over here in the park. Yeah.
She was some kind of a lady too, because back then it was hard for black men to go to school, and here she started college for black women.
Women, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, she insisted that once they finished college there, they would go out different parts of the I won't say world, but different parts of the South, and educate blacks, you know, and that's what they did. You know, once they'd finished at Bethune-Cookman, they'd go out and start their own, you know.
Yeah, they groomed them very well. I mean, to enter into society, you know, with class.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
You know that.
And I've got a soft spot. I don't mean to kind of get off track a little bit, but Bethune-Cookman, one of my great uncles was actually president of that school.
Oh wow.
And but more importantly, I still get a smile on my face when I think back to when the girl from Grand Rapids, completely underqualified, Betsy DeVos, went down there to give a graduation speech this past spring. And the Bethune-Cookman students stood up and turned their back on her and booed her down. And the deans and the professors were saying, if you don't be quiet, we're gonna mail your diplomas instead of handing them to you. They got louder.
Yeah.
Get this charlatan off our stage.
Yeah.
I loved it, man.
Oh man.
Which shows they were aware. They know their history, they know their current events, and they know what this woman was all about.
Yeah.
Not only was she ignorant, she stands for the destruction and the diminishment of black education.
Yeah.
And you got these cooning Uncle Tom and buck dancing administrators who looking for a buck from Massa, who put her up there, knowing at least as well as the students, she has no business on that stage.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated what they did. I didn't mean to divert it a little bit.
Well, but hey, you know, we're talking about these great women. How about?
We need more women to stand up and men to stand up for what's right for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, to me, that's the thing. And you know, me and Dennis, we talk about it, and you know, he's able to see more of it together more. But to me, it seemed like that's our whole thing. You know, black men and black women. And to me, it's been it's been going backwards since the 70s. You know, I'm just saying it's been going backwards in my eyesight since the 70s. And what do you think about it?
I think you could make that argument, man, if you look at the communities of black people, where you had economic independence and diversity within the black community. where, I've heard the legendary stories of right here in Lansing. You had neighborhoods that had restaurants and pharmacies and dentists and doctors and plumbers who had their own businesses. And because black folks had to rely on each other, the dollar circulated in the community, and you didn't have this devastating all-out poverty. You had a few poor people. You had people who obviously who were in the lower class economically, but they weren't destitute. They weren't homeless, and they didn't lack a place in their society. I think with the advent of integration, you probably saw the gross national product of blacks improve because you can go out there and use your God-given talents to work for any company, and these corporations are fools. They know when there's talent, and they know when they can make money off them, so they'll hire you. But when you get that money, the black economy in the United States of America is the 10th largest economy in the world. If you were to take just African Americans' economic power, we'd be the 10th largest country in the world, 1.6 trillion. So if you were to take that and circulate it a few times, we would be able to employ and sustain ourselves. But we don't flip it more. I think it's correct me if I'm wrong, isn't something like 0.10%, 0.20%? It's not even a full percent.
Right.
The dollar just flies out of our hands and it goes back into corporate America. And I think that's true of most Americans nowadays. I mean, you could go to Charlotte or some of these small towns around here, and in the 80s when I first moved here, you'd find mom and pop shops. It might be a candle shop or a pharmacy or something like that. Now everything's Walmart. And they've run all the small people out of business, and I think that's duplicated across all racial lines and economic lines, but it's really hurt us.
Oh yeah,
it's really hurt us.
Yeah. How about Sister Shirley Chisholm?
Oh yeah, she's a maverick. She took it right to America, and she didn't backstep at all.
No.
She was very intelligent. I don't know where she got her educational background from, but
I think she went to HBCU.
HBC?
I'm pretty sure she did.
Yeah.
She's from Texas.
right. But she made a hell of a difference. Yeah.
First black woman to run for president.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, she didn't back down.
No.
No. And that was so great about it. And then we talking about these black women. Didn't any of them,
Well, who shows more courage today?
The black woman.
If you think of black women.
Yeah.
And of the black women, have any of y'all seen someone who's more determined and strong and fearless than Maxine Waters?
No.
Recently?
No.
I mean, Maxine Waters took on Bill O'Reilly. And 3-4 weeks later, Bill O'Reilly's out there selling soup on the corner. She tells Trump in a minute, I'm ready for impeachment. I ain't scared of you. You're not going to intimidate me. We're going to stick to the topic. And we're going to talk about your collusion with the Russians. You can talk all that other stuff that you want to. I'm staying on topic. You're not going to frighten me. And she's so popular nowadays, the young people, the millennials, call her Auntie Maxine. So I think just as we talk about the Ida B. Wells and Fannie Lou Hamers and Shirley Chisholm. Someday we'll be talking about Maxine Waters in the same way.
Right.
And more.
They don't have any fear. I think men have a tendency to try to satisfy other people. But women stand on the truth. And men be looking for something in their pocket or something.
Compromise one way.
But the women are raw with it.
And the thing about it, what they believe,
Right.
And they stand.
Right.
And they stand. They do their homework.
And it's like they don't.
You get a few sellouts, so I mean, we can't forget Condi Rice.
Well, she was.
What a disappointment. Birmingham,
and she's
Alabama.
brilliant.
One of the members of the church with
the four little girls.
got killed.
She was friends with, supposedly. Friends with one of them. And to see her turn out the way she did.
I mean, it just.
Yeah, very bright.
Yeah.
Extremely bright.
You know,
extremely gifted, but extremely corrupt, extremely greedy,
Yeah.
extremely capitalistic, and
and she would
a
just say, I mean, whatever Bush said, it was right. You know, it's like, man,
it was embarrassing.
it was.
That was his Rottweiler.
Yeah.
You got that?
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, really, man. You know, and so it was just really outrageous, man.
But she could have so much more.
Yeah.
In pertaining to history for our community.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she hadn't sold out.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would have been an asset instead of a liability.
Yeah. And just like now, they trying to. I was reading something, and they were saying that what's her name? Let's see, is that her cousin?
Susan Rice.
Yeah.
They're
saying they trying to get her to come back and testify about something. She said, I ain't thinking about it.
Well, they wanted her to testify about what Clinton did with the emails and whether or not that was possibly related to this Russia thing. She says, look, I'm not going to be your distraction. I'm not going to be your little sidebar to get you off the topic. I'm not coming in there wasting anybody's time. Mm-hmm. But I saw Susan Rice on TV one time, was asked, what happened to Condoleezza? How come you turned out this way? Really, it was like, how come you turned out right? And what happened to Condoleezza
so far to the right,
right? And she kind of laughed it off. She did. She's not going to spare her.
Right.
Their first cousin.
Yeah.
But I thought that was funny, man.
Oh yeah.
This is kind of quizzing out of
Maybe she fell on her head sometime.
Right.
I mean, here, she's over here, and man, I mean, it's like.
Condi over there riding Mussolini. I know,
Yeah. It's just really, man, it's like, what? How about Marian Anderson, man?
I'm not real versed on Marian Anderson. So I won't comment.
Okay. Well, she's a great singer.
Okay.
One of the great singers. In fact, she's
at an opera thing or
well, not really opera. She was one of the great voices. I'll put it like that. One of the great voices. And they say one time she, this was back, in probably 50s. It used to be blacks. When blacks went to one of these things, no matter if it was black singer, blacks over here, and
segregated.
Yeah. And she was in D.C. At one of the monuments, man, and they tried to do that, and she said, "No, I ain't gonna even sing," and she didn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
Good for her.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna Jim Crow my performance.
Yeah.
Right. Ray did that too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I think another great black woman we could talk about, who's fairly recent, still young, who wrote one of the most important books I think of the 21st century, is Michelle Alexander. She wrote the book called The New Jim Crow.
Yeah.
Where she documented how U.S. law has been deliberately set up to identify and target young black men, criminalize them, remove them from society, and monetize them at the same time. So, these 3 strike laws, these minimum maximum laws, all these things that have been going on since the early 90s really metastasized in the early 21st century, to the point that you had legions of young black men who could never vote again, couldn't get public housing, couldn't get student loans, couldn't get reputable jobs, just locked out of society.
Had to turn to crime.
So absolutely, they had to turn to crime, Chuck. And of course now, they get that second strike, they go back in there, and they're virtual slaves for the system. And then of course they get that third strike. Yeah. And then they're in there for the rest of their life, or close to it.
Right.
So she really did a good job of identifying how deliberate this pattern was. You know,
Yeah.
how nefarious it was, how evil it was. This was a deliberate way to return some of those Jim Crow laws in a modern era where you couldn't say it's based on race, it's just a law. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you're targeting.
Right.
people
Targeting,
like
Yeah.
And she brought to light to me about how to institutionalize a person.
Yeah.
And I think she brought to light as how we've been institutionalized
Yeah.
under this
Yeah.
Jim Crowism, you
Yeah.
know, which still prevails today.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And another lady I like to mention too was Joyce DeGruy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't realize, because I'm a veteran myself, the traumatization, you
Yeah.
know, of seeing a hanging or seeing all these atrocious things done to
Yeah.
African Americans
Yeah.
in their lives, and then not to think that there's a result or residual effect of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, her book was post-traumatic slave disorder.
yeah.
And how that's carried down genetically. And you know what's interesting, Chuck, is that not too many years after she wrote her book, man, there were studies that came down looking at mitochondrial DNA of all people, and it showed some of those psychological stressors and shocks that happened a generation 2 or 3 before is carried down through the genes.
Yeah.
And so if you had a great grandmother who was beaten or raped, or a great grandfather who was lynched,
Right.
you carry that trauma
Right.
in your very being.
Yeah.
It's in your
Yeah.
DNA.
Right.
And it affects the way you think, it affects the way you grow,
Right.
it affects your outlook on life, your
Yeah.
psychological profile.
Right.
And I think she did a wonderful job.
Yeah, yeah, because you pass that fear to your children.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you keep them cornhole.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. How about Josephine Baker?
Yeah.
Beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You can start there.
Yeah.
I think the thing I remember most about her is how she talked about the first time she would feel free in her life is when she went to France. So, and you know, it's just not her. You could look at a guy like Dexter Gordon, a great American jazz saxophonist, one of my favorites. He said that when he went to Europe, he actually felt more emancipated and free to express himself and be regarded as a man. Now we know Europe is not free of racism,
Right.
but that just goes to show how virulent and pervasive
Right.
it was here
It's
in the
here.
United States
Yeah.
for so
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
man.
What's this guy that wrote I'm Not Your Negro?
Oh, James Baldwin.
Yeah, James
Oh,
Baldwin.
yeah.
He did the same thing.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
he
He did
migrated.
absolutely-
Yeah. How about Barbara Jordan?
Great woman.
Yeah.
Great woman.
Brilliant woman.
Yeah. One of the
Sacrifice.
key investigators and
The Watergate.
during the Watergate investigation. Asked him real direct
Yeah.
questions, got right to the point.
Yeah.
And again, she was one of these women, she wasn't trying to be cooperative and politically correct. She went right to the heart of the matter and asked the questions that needed to be asked instead of dancing around the issue.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
She was honest to her job.
Yeah.
She was committed to
Yeah.
her constituents.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing about it, this is a black woman who it wasn't many black women in government back then.
No.
You know.
No.
I mean, her and Shirley Chisholm, I think in that time period, they may have been the only two
And
national
Jordan,
in Congress, Barbara Jordan and Shirley Chisholm. I can't recall anyone else around that time frame.
It was a lady from California and a lady from Ohio. The lady died in Ohio last year. I can't remember her name, but you know, and now it's probably how many black women in the Congress now?
Well, it's quite a few.
Yeah.
Quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite a few.
You know.
I think that we would be remiss if talking about great ancestors if we didn't mention Frances Cress Welsing, like we were talking about Dr. Joy DeGruy. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who just transitioned a couple years ago, wrote this great book called The ISIS Papers. And it was another one of those books, when you read it, you're like, wow, this is so obvious. It's common sense,
right.
but you didn't think about it in the theory of her book was that European racism, the ferocity of it, and the pervasiveness of it, and the brutality of it, is based on a fear of genetic annihilation.
Yeah.
They first noticed when they began their imperial movements in the 15th century and moving forward, going around the globe, that whenever there would be a children born of one of these rapes of indigenous women, the child would turn out to be brown or black. And they soon figured out that, you know what, we won't be white anymore if we let these black folks proliferate, and we got to keep having babies. So part of her theory on the ISIS papers was that this fear of genetic annihilation had a lot to do with the fact that whenever you had lynching in the South, 9 times out of 10 they would castrate the man and mutilate him sexually.
Yeah.
And it was a message of fear and terror that I may not be able to get all of you, but I tell you what, you will not be putting that on a white woman.
Yeah.
And it's just genetics.
Right,
you know,
right.
Black is dominant, white is recessive.
Right. And
so
and it's still effective today.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm sorry, but I always got to go to these preachers, man.
Okay.
They so scared of white men.
Oh,
That, you know, they want a pat on their head every chance they can get. You know, the
That's
mayor
white to them, Chuck.
yeah, it's sad, you know. But okay, let's move
No.
on.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
We got
Plus it's profitable.
We got
Yeah,
a couple more minutes.
yeah.
Go ahead. We got a couple more.
Yeah, but to me, it's that residual side effect of how the slaves
Yeah,
treated us.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Because there's no way in the world that you should go to a church and a black church in the black community, and that man tell you to worship another man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most degrading thing that you can do, and you're teaching the children that.
Yeah.
They got Sunday school prepping the kids to love a white man.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That reminds me, man. I had to go to Discount Tire this morning to get my tires rotated, right? It sounds like it's off topic, but it's not. And I'm sitting there looking at the magazine rack, and they had this illustrated children's Bible stories, you know, with the cursive writing. And I said, man, that's the book that I used to have as a preschooler.
Yeah.
And I remember all the characters in the book were white men with, you know, heavy beards.
Yeah, Moses and all of them.
Yeah.
And I went over there and
Abraham.
opened it up, man, and every single character in that book was portrayed as a white man. And I said, you know what? I realize now that I was being brainwashed before I could even read.
Right.
My mother would set me on her lap and tell me about the goodness of Jesus and how I need to obey God.
Yeah.
Right.
And the illustrations that were supposed to help me learn that message
Right.
were all white men.
Yeah.
And that I think that it teaches you to be subservient.
Yeah. And it took me 60 years to come to the conclusion that, hey, man, I gotta believe in myself.
Yeah. We gotta go now. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and we'll catch you in the next block. Peace.
Peace.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.